What's up, you beautiful person? It's your boy Micah. You know what it is. Here we talk tips and perspectives so that you can live freely in reality. Before we get into the video, I want to say thank you so much for all the love and support and kind words that you always give me. If you're new here, welcome to the fam. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I post every week tips and perspective, and we just have a good time. As well as I launched the Patreon page. The links for the Patreon page will be in the description below. If you would like to become a supporter, a homie, or a road dog on my Patreon, I really appreciate it. There we'll talk way more unfiltered content that's going to be over there, in depth, all things trans in life, just definitely way more in depth than what I can do here on YouTube, because there are some limitations to what I can and can't say here. But on Patreon, it's going to be all unfiltered. So if you want to be a part of it, please go ahead and hit the link in the description and become a patron. So let's get real into the video real quick. Should you take a low dose of tea? This actually comes up a lot in my Instagram, on emails, all of that stuff. So I figure let's tackle it real quick in this video. Before we can talk about the 3 things that I want you to ask yourself to kind of discern if you should take a low dose of tea, I want to kind of preface those questions with this. A good doctor or endocrinologist, and as always, you should speak to your medical professionals, your medical team. Don't just rely upon YouTube or me to give you those answers, because I don't know your personal medical situation, and I'm not a doctor, and these are just my opinions and my thoughts. From my understanding and my knowledge of going through the process myself, as well as speaking to dozens upon dozens of transgender men, so this is of course anecdotal, the majority, you are going to be given a low dose when starting tea. Low dose in what's relative to you. And the reason why I say what's relative to you is because you have to understand that all of us are unique and different in the way that, yes, we all produce hormones, estrogen and testosterone, but you have to understand some people already naturally produce more testosterone than others. Some people naturally produce more estrogen than others, and you know, there are different reasons for that we're not going to get into, but the dose is going to be low, in which is relative to your body. But they always try to start you on that low dose so that your body can get acclimated to it and you don't have such a huge shift and swing in your hormones, which can affect your emotions and your, appetite and all these different things. So they try to gradually kind of like get you up to that place of where they want you to be in terms of hormones. So you're already going to be on what is a low dose relative to you. But the more important thing that I want to discuss here is these questions, these 3 questions I think you should ask yourself, because honestly, I think that when we're talking about low dosing, the majority of the time people are asking the question of low dose because of 2 things, which brings us to the first question. Why do you want a low dose of tea? This comes down to 2 things. Thinking a low dose can like prevent certain changes, meaning that you can pick and choose, right? Some people, I've had people come to me and say, well, I want to take a low dose of tea because I don't want acne, or and that kind of makes sense, right? You would think, well, if I'm taking a lower dose, I won't get acne. And I can understand the line of thinking, but that's not necessarily true. This comes down to genetics. Testosterone is a big part of it. I've known guys who take testosterone, have been taking testosterone for years, and they don't get acne, and I get acne, and I never had acne as bad as I do now. But mainly it's the thinking of I can get this thing and not the other thing. I had somebody tell me, well, I want a deeper voice, but I only want it to be a little bit deep, and I don't want the bottom growth. So I'm going to take a low dose of tea so that I can get the deeper voice but not the bottom growth. Well, you don't know how your body's going to react to that. There's no way to pick and choose what you're going to get. You get what you get. That's typically what someone is discussing when they say I want to take a low dose of tea. It's because they think they can pick and choose what they'll get when taking tea if they take a lower dose, and that's just not the case. It's not reality. Someone wants to typically have a low dose of tea because they're afraid of the changes, and so they think if I take a low dose, again, I can pick and choose what I get and I don't have to like be in fear. And again, I'm sorry to tell you guys, that's not reality. There's always going to be a level of fear when doing anything new, right? But particularly when we're talking about medical transition, it can be really scary. I mean, I've had top surgery, I've had a hysterectomy, and I'm potentially going to be having bottom surgery. So it's like there's always a level of fear. You can't see into the future. There's no crystal ball. You don't know what the results are going to be and what the outcome is going to be. So there's always going to be a level of fear, but you have to be able to weigh the risk and the reward and discern for yourself if if you're gonna do it in spite of the fear. Everything that I've done related to my transition, I'd be lying if I told you guys I wasn't afraid. There's been plenty of times where I've been afraid. Right before being put under, I'm afraid. Going into surgery, I'm always thinking to myself, I can leave right now. I don't have to do this. This is, you know, I think that to myself, but I close my eyes and I grip my teeth and I say I'm gonna do it anyway in spite of the fear. So you really wanna ask yourself, what is the reasoning behind you wanting a low dose of tea? Because that's gonna help you discern what's really going on. Is it fear, thinking you can take certain things and not certain things? Like, what is the reasoning behind why? And really just kind of like dig deep on that. Which brings me to the second question. What are you hoping to get out of tea? Which builds upon why you want a low dose of tea, right? But legitimately asking yourself what you want out of the experience is a great way to gauge what your expectations are. And then discerning if those expectations are healthy or not. Because again, if you're hoping to get, you know, facial hair but not a deep voice, or a deep voice and not bottom growth, or this or that, then those are pretty unrealistic and in a sense unhealthy expectation. Because what happens when you don't meet that expectation? You know, is it gonna crush you? It's important to ask yourself why do you want a low dose of tea? Figuring out what the reasoning is. Is it fear, or is it picking and choosing mentality? What are you hoping to get out of tea will help you to go further into understanding what your expectations are, which these all build upon each other, right? Then the third question I would ask is, what do you want out of the experience? Do you want to feel more like yourself? Do you want to look and sound and be the man that you are in the physical realm, in this tangible space, but you're maybe just afraid of certain things? You know, what are you hoping to get out of this experience is a really important question to ask yourself, to understand what your expectations are of tea. Then also being able to weigh that risk and reward, right? And then what your expectations of tea is probably the most important question to ask, because are your expectations healthy, in the sense that regardless of what happens, you can accept what happens. You can love yourself regardless of what happens. You can be happy in spite of what will happen or won't happen, and that you won't be so obsessive or impatient or angry, or basically making this transitional period of your life miserable for yourself. Those are the three questions that I would really ask myself, and have asked myself before starting tea, and what I would encourage you to ask yourself as you go through this process, especially if the first thought in your mind is, I want to start a low dose of tea and I don't know. Then these are some things you can ask yourself to help you answer that question. But ultimately, only you have the answers. Only you know what's right for you. You just gotta have those conversations with self, have that introspection, take the time to reflect, dig deep, and be honest. Be completely and utterly honest, brutally honest with yourself in the way that you answer these questions, so that way you can really discern for yourself the correct answer for you. Or not the right answer, because there is no right or wrong answers, they just are. But only you have the answers, and they're inside you. And I hope this helps you get some clarity. I love you guys. I'll see you guys in the next video.